Hey, 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 it's Sarah Jane from Access Your True Nature, day 16 of the 28-day Active Appreciation Challenge. How are you all doing? I'm just going to wait for you to all pour in, tag a fellow appreciator, share this. Today we're going to explore the art of actively appreciating, staying curious and just open to new opportunities and possibilities so that we can transform out of our old stories and patterns. So welcome, hello, hello. Say hi, send me some hearts. Tell me what's happening. Hi, Nirag. Is it Nirag? Nice to see you here. Good morning, wherever you are. So I look a bit unkempt. I have been packing. We've been working like Trojan horses. This house is looking absolutely gorgeous. Hi, Ricky. Nice to see you. Nice to see you all. Come on in. I'm good. Right, so how are you staying open and curious to things that perhaps don't look like something you want until you actually have that childlike curiosity and look at, wow, I wonder what else is possible, and what is this, and what can we do with it, and just keeping your energy expanded and open. Why, thank you. I'll take cute and adorable. Yeah. So I've been witnessing a really interesting pattern playing out in myself lately, and it goes something like this. Anytime I get close to feeling sad or depressed or thinking that someone doesn't maybe care about my needs, I immediately sort of kick into action. And all you caregivers, all you sensitive empaths, hi Christina, welcome. Share this, tell people we're going live, give me some love, give me some hearts. And maybe you can relate. So I've been getting really curious about this thing that I do, less now. Hi Heather, nice to see you. Where anytime I don't get the response that I want, and it feels like not caring, or that maybe you're feeling invisible, I immediately used to kick into action and channel all my energy into creating and doing and being and really busying myself rather than sit. Hi Elena. Rather than sit with this feeling of, what is this? You know, what is this that I'm feeling deep down? You've had a double dose of me today, Christina. Yeah, and I think this is a common pattern that we all do as recovering perfectionists, as recovering people pleasers, as caregivers. Isn't it a beautiful day? It has been stunning here today in Neisner. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful day. And I'll maybe give you a little look at how this exquisite house is coming together. But yeah, so I was talking about getting curious about this thing of not being able to hold the pause longer. Remember, we talked about this a couple of days ago of and this is what I teach in my nervous system reboot work, and in my work with recovering from adverse childhood experiences and that chronic, toxic, unpredictable stress. So those virtual vibrational reality systems where there's some kind of shock and trauma that hasn't quite integrated or moved through you yet. And how we go into coping mechanisms. And I'm going to be sharing with you 3 ways that you can make it more easy and effortless and more expansive for you later on in the training today. So can you relate? And if you can, put it in the comments below. And remember, I do go back and read these posts and answer any of your questions. So if you have any questions and I don't see them, just post them below and I will be sure to answer them after the live training. So can you relate to sort of distracting yourself from being present with a feeling or a thought or an emotion or a pain in your body where you perhaps don't want to sit with it because it's uncomfortable, and it's our immediate response to actually kick in and go into doing and busy mode. So on the surface it looks like spectacular productivity, but deep down I often find it's me frantically trying to avoid feeling my own feelings, which in turn prevents me from listening deeper, and really actively appreciating that moment of discomfort for what is it that I need in this moment, what is it that I actually want, and really staying with it, and just pushing pause. I really appreciate the pushing of the pause, just stopping. The world will carry on, but giving yourself that is probably one of the most loving things that you can do to get you into this place of curiosity again, of childlike wonder, of wow, what is that? I wonder what that could be. And not the why questions so much, which often get us down the rabbit hole. Hi, Ricky. All right, so it seems to me that when I kind of deepened into that space of curiosity of wow, what is this thing that I'm a little bit too quick to go into busyness and outside creation, rather than to sit with that feeling a little bit longer. And it seems that in response to the trauma that I experienced at a young age, my subconscious patterns and my subconscious mind developed this pattern to keep me from feeling the depth of my own sadness, and of feeling isolated and alone, or that nobody understood me. And back then it wasn't very productive or safe for me to lean into that full experience of my own emotions. So maybe you can relate to that, and if you can, just give me a yes, or give me a thumbs or some hearts, and let me know where you can deepen into that curiosity, because you are creating secure attachment for yourself now. Because for me, I really learned to suppress. So afraid pause leads to procrastination. And remember, procrastination is a mind fuck, actually. It's much more gentle when it comes from the heart, not from the mind. So for me, a pause comes from the heart. The procrastination comes from the mind tripping that actually doesn't want you to actually change it, because remember, change is scary to the child part of you that's feeling or doesn't want to feel that emotion. Does that make sense, Christina? So, I think a lot of us in this community, in this tribe, learned, like I did, to suppress my emotions by either focusing my energy into my work, or staying busy with things like errands and cleaning and exercising and taking care of other people. And it becomes your natural state. So it becomes your standard operating procedure. And then it's so ingrained in you that you don't even know that you're doing it. So I'm only just recognizing what a strong and pervasive coping pattern that actually is. And I see similar patterns playing out in so many of my clients too. We're not willing to look in the blind spots. We're not willing to stay in the shadows for fear of the change or the not knowing. We keep pulling back to what we know is safe, that actually we don't need anymore. And when I was like really witnessing that in myself, it reminded me of a Great Dane called Marmaduke that we rescued from a shelter in Cape Town when I lived in Cape Town. And he'd been dumped on the side of a busy highway, and he'd been really hurt during that dumping. But also, as I sort of brought him home out of that shelter situation, his whole zone had literally collapsed. And this is what happens when we've experienced a big shock or trauma or chronic unpredictable toxic stress. So you don't know when it's coming at you. I think that creates even more disease than like one big trauma. And it took him a long time. And in fact, my husky Misha had a very similar physical response. But animals are really good at trying to shake off fear, and this is the somatic experiencing work that I teach with that Peter Levine speaks of and is the creator of. But when Marmaduke and Misha came to us, I could clearly see that they'd both been abused. A raised hand to pat them had Misha literally wetting herself, and Marmaduke used to totally cower and start shivering and shaking, and absolute fear in his eyes. And over time, both of them learned to do the one thing that comes with that kind of conditioning, and that was to either go into a free state or use their natural resources for self-defense, and that was to just bolt at full speed as far away. So Marmaduke used to run and run and run, and I spent probably the first couple of months that he was with us going out looking for this poor dog, because that was his response, was just to run away as far as he could from his abusers. And through animal communication and having a lot, working through the trauma with them. Hi Mary Haynes, nice to see you here. They slowly started to trust me and the people that came in, that this was a safe place for them. That that bolting whenever humans were near Marmaduke, even if anyone could get him to kind of sit for a little while, he would go into total panic, fight, flight, freeze mode, and run as fast as he could. Misha was more freeze. She would just freeze, and I've seen this with so many abused horses too, where they had multiple riders that had abused them, and they were moved from one home to another as unrideable or a dangerous horse. That I've never met a horse or an animal that they don't have anything vindictive or anything other than protecting themselves, and this behavior either landed them in the shelter or wherever they were when their sponsors or their new families found them. And oftentimes animals are said, they're dangerous, or they're they're never going to get over it, and they get euthanized. And this is where I'm so grateful and appreciative of the work that I get to do, because I've never met a bad animal, only bad people who do awful things to animals, and that don't know how to do this work, which is why I'm so passionate about getting animal communication work and the pragmatic psychology and physiology of how to get animals out of a collapse zone so that they can really learn to trust again, just like us. We have an animal body, and when people treat you badly or with animals, treat animals with more aggression and more discipline, it just makes the behavior work. We see this with children, don't we? And there's a little child inside of us that remembers those times where we have been reinforced in the not trusting, because there's so much fear of that humans can't be trusted. So is this making sense? Give me some love, give me some hearts, give me some questions if you have anything coming up about this. So, or you treat yourself badly? Yeah, absolutely. Because if it's not safe, yes. So that's part of the coping mechanisms that you get to, Heather. And I'm hopefully going to give you some things, or remind you that you might already know this, but just some reminders on how to stay curious and open, and keep your zone wide if you have a collapse zone. And I teach you how to check if people's zones are collapsed. A lot of times people can't pass when they're ready to die, animals as well, because their zone is actually collapsed. So they're disconnected from their body, and you need to just expand the zone out again so that they have a sense of their bodies in regard to space. So remembering my work that I've done with so many horses and so many people over the years has given me great insight for how to transform my own patterns, because we are constantly working on more expansion, more effortlessness, more consciousness, more communion with our own bodies. And me doing this work and you being part of my community it's a gift, beautiful gifting and receiving. So I kind of boiled it down to for today with this thing of looking at curiosity into 3 steps that I want to share with you. What is it that animals do toward us that we do not feel? What is it that animals do towards us that we do not feel as threatened? I'm not quite sure what you're asking, Heather. Can you give me some more information on that? Yeah, because I just find animals don't do anything. There isn't the premeditation of when this person comes, I'm going to bite them. These horses that always sort of bite at everybody that come close to them, or the dog that kind of growls and bares its teeth or shows kind of aggressive behavior, that's become part of their coping mechanism to say, back off, I don't feel safe with you. And we misinterpret it as something vindictive. And the humans are the only species that I know that actually have that dream. It's that same time of the day, every day that Harley Davidson goes past the house, it's quite hysterical. Things run into routine. For example, wag their tails. Yeah, so a lot of times dogs that wag their tails, it's not always a greeting, it's not always a hello. Dogs actually say hello by sniffing your crutch, and of course we think that's inappropriate too. But you know, if you want to greet a dog properly, allow the dog to sniff your crutch and get a scent of who you are. Their olfactory glands are much more in tune on a subtle sense of the multi-sensory being that we all are than ours are. And you know, we are, through pheromones, getting that sense before we've even had a conversation or got to know anyone. That's all in work, and it's just something that I think I want people to deepen into, because it is such a gift to be able to be omnipresent and omnisensory and use all of your senses, especially the subtle ones. So here's 3 little steps that I wanted to give you today to look at. So they greet us. Oh, sorry, I didn't know if I finished that. So yeah, smelling the dog smelling your crutch is always the best, is their natural greeting. So animals seem to greet humans. You know, they wag their tails. Sometimes that is a submissive. You learn like microfacial expressions to read those on people through a very strong, healthy vagal tone. Animals do the same thing. So you know, we're the only species that show our teeth as a sign of welcoming or hello. Most other animals, they show their teeth as a sign of aggression, to say, back off, you're too close, or you're in my space, or you're in my territory. And that's like a whole, you know, this is what I teach it in my longer classes. So yeah, so it's not always what it seems, and this is where the pause can give you that moment to connect with your body, to connect to your environment, and look at the curiosity of what's going on before you respond. So I really want you to get back into the curiosity of that. You know, cats are really good at that. My friend who I'm helping do this move has a beautiful Maine Coon, and you see this with animals. They come and they'll say hello, and saying hello for a cat is always like a very soft blink. That is cats are all about honoring and reverence of space and their space. So if you want to say hello to a cat, you always kind of slow blink. If you want to say hello to a horse, heart to heart connection, soft gaze, eyes down. When you look at a horse in the eyes, you're actually telling it to go away. So imagine the terror and the trauma if horses have been abused, and a lot of horses that have been broken and laid down, to them that means death, to be laid down. So if you're going up to a horse, and not ill-intended, but going up to a horse that is stable, and you're glaring at them in the eyes like this, you're actually telling the horse to go away, and it can't go away. It's stuck in a 4x4 cell. Not how nature intended horses to live. You know, they're herd animals. They need to be in a herd. So we've actually created a lot of very traumatic situations for animals. But you know, so again, it's just like learning to speak or learn the cultures and the customs of other oh my gosh, I've gone completely blank. Other people, traditions and cultures. There's a respect and a reverence and an honoring of that. So you can get curious about it and know this is the education, this is the training part, or it's just like, wow, you know, speak more about that. I would love to know, what are your customs, what are your traditions? Animals, this is part of their nature, it's part of their survival, and we've forgotten that we have an animal body that knows how to respond to danger and knows where to pull us forward and where to move us away. So 3 steps I've got for you today. I need to get back to the boxes and the packing. We're almost done. And I have a client in a second, but just remember, you know, the first thing you can do in opening yourself and keeping your zone open with strong, healthy boundaries is to create a safe space for presence and self-acceptance. Okay, and my first step with all these abused animals, especially horses, and with myself, is to always create a safe space where the triggers and the emotions and the reactions can surface in a natural way but not be reinforced. So, you know, that Great Dane of mine, his trigger was anything related to human beings, especially anyone that wanted to come close to him, to touch him, meant death for his system. You know, it was just not a safe space for him, so his zone would always collapse, and then he would bolt the soonest exit strategy that he could see. So for me, preparing and expanding his zone, and then allowing him enough space in a fenced garden or a field where he could run and as far as he liked, or bare his teeth or growl. And he wasn't that kind of dog. Misha was a little bit like that, but I've seen this often with horses, is give them a circular pen so that they can run and bolt and kick and snort as much as they need to, and I could make sure to keep enough distance between us to keep us both out of harm's way. Animals are very empathetic. You know, all they want, especially dogs, is that they're all here to contribute. And this is my belief, that animals come into our lives because they have soul contracts, and we also have seed thoughts that are connected to them, sometimes through other lifetimes. So I have seen, and this is where I get really curious in my work, many times I've had clients come and visit me, and a lot of times it's a cultural thing where, like, a lot of the Indian people that I know are very scared of cats. It's just sort of in their blueprint. And a lot of people will come into my clinic, which most of you know is at home, and they go, oh no, I can't come in there because you've got cats and I'm allergic, or you've got dogs and I'm allergic. And isn't it interesting? You know, this is the curiosity where I get really curious, and I'm like, wow, is it possible that you, being this infinite soul that has lived lives before and has incredible innate intelligence of your body's wisdom, that you have encoded a tripwire, so to speak, in your body to ensure that you never ever get close enough to an animal again, because perhaps you saw terrible cruelty done to animals, or loved an animal so much that you made an unconscious commitment or a vow or an oath or a promise in this lifetime or another lifetime that prevented you to never get that close to animals again. And your body went, sure, let me create an anaphylactic shock or an allergy or an intolerance to cat hair. I mean, we forget how potent and powerful we actually are. And I have a process that works really well on changing that. But sometimes just people being aware of, wow, yeah, actually, when I was 5 and I saw my cat get run over, that I made a promise that I never ever wanted to love an animal that much before, because it hurt too much. So I created an allergy. I saw a little boy once, his mother brought to me because she'd been through multiple Western doctors, and she was at her wit's end because her child was totally intolerant to dairy, which I don't think anyone should be drinking baby cow's milk except baby cows. But he had this terrible, almost anaphylactic reaction to lactose, and when I went into it and went into the regression, it came up that there was a fear around that was triggered, the dairy intolerance, because the child had, you know, remember those little ice cream vans that drive around and they play the music, and he had been like, this was the treat when Wednesdays in the neighborhood, the little truck came around and his mother would always buy him an ice cream, and he had been licking his ice cream when his little Doberman Pinscher had run into the road and got killed by a car. So trauma is never in the event, it's more complicated than that. But that is what I call like the first the neuronet that all the other stories, as we grow and as we get older, all these other stories get connected to this first main trauma. So when I worked on him through Parama and some of my other tools, we connected up the lactose intolerance to this traumatic event, and we're able to release the emotions and the unconscious commitments, and the child was no longer dairy intolerant. So I digress a little bit, but I was giving you these three steps, and the one was create safety for yourself. Check, is my zone collapsed? Is this person or this animal zone collapsed? And then if you want to know how, book a session and find out. Get curious about how can I learn how to do, if you're interested in animal communications. And remember that we are animals. We have an animal body. So this works across species, and this work is powerful. This work is really, really powerful. They absolutely sense our pain, Heather, and they are, one of the best gifts and catalysts. And they'll always, oftentimes I've seen animals surrogate people's pain to the point of where they're prepared to die for their human, and they often take on our pain, and they'll often express. So this is where I see a lot of behavioral issues come through my practice, because the dog just starts doing something different. I had a woman that didn't know what to do because her cat kept peeing in the pot plant in the kitchen, and it had never sprayed or done that before, and it turned out that was where her husband had been beating her up, and abusing her verbally and physically, and the cat was expressing the fear, the existential fear, the real big stuff of survival issues for this woman who was her human and absolutely adored her. So I'm so grateful, because a lot of the animals, like I said, I've never met an animal that has a problem. They just often will take on our problems, and that's a really good way to get our attention if we're not taking care of ourselves. So there's something going on. Animals will show us what we need to look at, and a lot of my clients have often come through people bringing their animals to me because they have a behavioral problem, or they're sick, or because they take on disease. So I'm seeing a lot more thyroid issues in animals, and a lot of that has to do with the dry food industry, which is a whole nother insidious topic for another day. And I do cover a lot of this in my Pause for All bones and raw food diet for healthy pets, and there's lots of options and recipes and Bach remedies to symptoms. So if you want to know more about that, just let me know. But I do cover this in detail in my online home study, Being Human Through Animals communication course, and it's intensive. I don't believe in dripping you and giving you just a little bit and then having to sell you something else, and then intermediate and advanced animal communication. I've given everything I have, and it continues to grow, because animals are teaching me all the time how to be a better human being. So they very much are mirroring our stuff. Yes, Heather. Let me know if this is a great conversation today, because I think a lot of you are really, really quiet. Tell me what's working for you, as we actively appreciate getting curious. And I love this, because questions are all about curiosity. So my first step is, and it may just be a reminder, but I hope you can hear me, is creating a sense of safety. You have to create the safety for yourself as a secure adult for your child parts that may still be collapsed. They may still be caught in unconscious commitments, and it's up to us to create safety for those child parts to integrate back. And how do we do that? Well, you need to do my mindfulness change process, which is very, very powerful. I know some of you have done it, but it's life-changing. And you don't need to believe me. You can talk to the hundreds of clients that have actually taken through the mindfulness change process. Their lives literally transformed, because they now have the tools to actually use this for other people in their lives and their businesses and their practices. Hi, Kazee. So keep your, be aware. We talked about that yesterday on appreciating. What did we appreciate yesterday? I'm so tired. Physically tired, but my brain's a bit of a fog. The difference between discernment and judgment. So you want to be looking at, what's really going on here, and give yourself space, give your body some space. so that you don't go and collapse your zone again. My trigger the other day was like having a friend not show compassion in a situation where I really felt unsafe. And I decided to really just sit quietly and just get curious about what was going on. So I started to look into my emotions and watched my desire to keep in constant action to avoid what was going on in that specific, thank you, Heather, confusion, what was going on in that present moment where I felt like my friend really didn't get it. And for you, that trigger just might be a situation where you feel judged or unseen. So make a safe space to sit with yourself and just simply notice what arises. And the second step is to once you've noticed, once you're triggered, what do you do then? And for me, it's just about simply sit with it, push pause, and just observe with curiosity rather than judgment. So we're talking about being the witness, as the observer, as if it's on a projector and it's just moving in front of you, staying connected to your body. So whenever your trigger, become aware of the emotion and the reaction and the patterns. And also, this is the blind spot work. This is the work that I do in the shadow dancing class, where we go into the blind spots, where we go into the shadows and actually see what are the patterns and the coping strategies that arise once you're in it. Because this only works if you're training, right? It's all very well to have the theory, or to listen to me, or to listen to a podcast, or take a class, but until life happens through you, but until you're actually triggered, you can't put this into practice. So this is really about active appreciation. That's why I wanted it to be an activity that you actually appreciate and lean into every single day. So see if you can notice and observe what your thoughts, feelings, and emotions as they arise, and just observe them as well. That's a really interesting point of view, that I have that point of view. Wow, that's really interesting that I'm feeling this in my clavicle or the back of my shoulder, or whatever it is for you. The work, yeah. And this is the difference between education and training, right? Information is just information unless you're using it. So just notice. So that's the second step. You're just going to notice, and you're just going to observe, and you're just going to go, wow, that is so interesting, and where do I feel? And as I said, this is the transformational work that I am passionate about, because I've seen so many people get results from this. I can't speak enough about the power of my mindfulness change process. So, maybe you can just, notice, and when you're triggered, you just sit and you notice. If you need to push pause, if you need to take space, because maybe your zone has collapsed in the trigger of somebody in your face doing this, or whatever it is, notice, oh, my heart rate just went up. I'm not feeling safe. My hands are a little sweaty. Back off. Go somewhere where you can just be with the feeling of it, and see if you can just observe without judging or trying to change them, right? That is the intense before the release, right? I always say intensify the feeling of discomfort before you release it. So maybe you feel numb, maybe you try to blame someone else, or you go into caretaking mode. Whatever it is for you, just see if you can create a space of acceptance. What's going on up there? Somebody's got their music going. Just see if you can create a space. Oopsie, my thing is about to fall down. Of curiosity. Just hold your own process, and with curiosity, get really interested instead of criticizing yourself and making yourself wrong. That, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? I should be over this by now. There is nothing to get over. We want to get deep down. Right? That is the gift, and that's the only way that I believe that we create permanent change. Yeah, great, Heather. So give me some love. Give me some heart. Send me some energy. Tell me that you're still there. I see a couple of you online. But don't drop off. I'm almost done, and I'd love you to stay to the end. And if this isn't interesting to you, tell me what you do want. Give me some questions. Tell me what you would like to have resolved, so that we can have these conversations. Because I don't want to talk about things that maybe, are not what you need. If you've got this bit sorted, let me know so that I can give you and contribute to the things that you do need support with. So, you know, I really want you to just for today, in appreciating curiosity, to just try and hold yourself in the process with a kind heart. Just soften your heart, push the barriers down and open your heart, and just be present until your body and your mind and your heart can fully embrace the sensations and the feelings and the underlying fear. Because we're not afraid of pain, we're actually afraid of fear. And this is where, with Marmaduke and a lot of the rescues that I've worked with, this for me looks like me allowing them to discover me on their own terms and in their own time. And you know, after a couple of, you know, this is about being patient. This is about softening your gaze. This is about consistency. This is about momentum. So don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on the people in your lives because you think that they're never going to change. Because I know that after 5 minutes of a horse bolting and snorting and running around in a blind panic, or a dog that's run around the block a couple of times before I actually got hold of them, they eventually slow down. And I have never had a case that they haven't felt into the energy of an open heart and kind eyes and a presence, and they just start noticing that there's something different, you know, in the energy of my presence, and that I wasn't trying to hurt them or beat them or chase them. And then they get curious, right? They get curious and they go, wow, this feels different. This feels different. But you have to be patient with yourself and with everybody else. And you know, this is the beautiful part about appreciating curiosity, because something in the energy feels different. It's not the old stories that we started with a couple of, I think, right back early on in day 1 or 2 of this challenge. You are not your story. And though we cannot change the terrible, traumatic, painful things that have happened to you or to animals, we can change how we transform through the power of parable and how we tell our stories. So get curious, okay, so that a new curiosity can arise in the other person or the other animal or the situation that you're in, if it's a team or a community or corporation. You know, you cannot change what you don't acknowledge. And the best way to do that is very non-threatening, and again, what I teach in Deal and Deliver in all of my work is how to be able to hold the space of not ambivalence and not avoidance, but create safety, that you can hold yourself, that you can stand up for yourself in any given situation, and know that it's often not personal, it's just an interesting point of view. All right, so get curious so that new curiosity and new connection can come to you, right? That's the gifting and the receiving. And step 3 in this quick little nugget for today, obviously I go much deeper, and we really get into your personal story and transforming your own thing. But just for the sake of this challenge, the step 3 of this would be to begin to build a new experience and a new story. So can you see how brilliantly I am in engineering or reverse engineering, that every little nugget we've had every single day is actually building in repetition. It's a rinse and repeat that just gets deeper and deeper down into the heart, and deeper down into you being able to transform and hold your strength and be confident and have absolute clarity because you trust yourself. Okay, do not abandon yourself. And if you want to listen to the webinar, there is a very powerful webinar that I did a couple of months ago called Healing the Abandoned Child, and you'll find that in 2 parts over on my SoundCloud account. If I remember, I'll post the link, or maybe one of you that have actually listened to that and benefited from it can just post that link here. But we need to start to build a new story, and we need to allow the old ones to fall away with time. And this is where the 5 cornerstones of great relationship have to be in parallel, running in parallel all the time. And that is kindness, honor, gratitude, right? Trust and allowance. Those are the 5 cornerstones that make up love. And it takes patience and it takes kindness. So I know, that once we can come to know one another from a deeper place, we start moving together differently. Just like animal, like my own animal body, like my horse, my body is my horse, as is yours. This is where it's just the place of homecoming, right? Back to returning to love, loving whatever arises, where we can move together, and our breathing is in synchronicity. And when women live in a house, their menstrual cycles synchronize, right? It's comfortable, it's a safe space. So if I raise my hand very quickly still, and this is, I don't know, 4 or 5 years after I had Misha, she'd still pee in her pants. It took a long time for her to actually stop doing that, but she learned to deepen her trust and deepen into it, and I had to stay steady. My one amazing mentor, Monty Roberts, said that, and I'll never forget. He said, adrenaline up, learning goes down. So we're always wanting to notice our own heartbeat, noticing when our pulse quickens, and just learn to ask your body by request, by breathing, to just slow down the heartbeat when we start gudu in our head, okay? And just to take the lead that I'm calm and steady. I'm connected to my bodies, and my willingness to stay connected to the other person that's disassociating, or the animal that's shutting down, is how we start to create trust. And you can do this with your own body as well. So you have to have a lot of kindness and a lot of patience with yourself, and just be willing for other people to connect, other animals to connect, while also expressing to yourself physically in ways that are natural for you. Okay, so this is what I'm practicing. I don't practice or anything that I don't use myself, and it's all about repetition. With a lot of time and patience and repetition, whether you're birthing a baby or growing a business, it's all the same thing, right? Or leaning into your work, or how to have a sales conversation that doesn't say it heart, salesy and pushy. That's very much about heart selling. That's where I can help you with that. I'm pretty good at that, okay? Because I've learned so much from animals. I always say everything I've learned about being human, I've learned mostly from animals, and that's a couple of really incredible mentors. So we never stop learning. And with these small steps, so I say slow and steady, slow and steady. There's nowhere to go, there's nothing to prove, there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to fix. Take the pause, because slowly you're going to start building a new relationship with your body, and a new relationship with your business, and the people that you love. And the ones that you're ready to let go of will go. The ones that do not see the best and empower and rise you up. And your behaviors and your patterns and your old blind spots will fall away, because they're no longer in the shadows. So just notice where you're doing that. For me, when I thought of the situation with my friend the other day, I noticed my desire to create something new at work, and my desire to clean the kitchen, or start moving around and listening to Eckhart Tolle, or going into meditation, or it was. And I wanted to move into a much bigger perspective, rather than simply sit in my feeling of sadness. And I felt like that scared dog, or my scared cat Winston, who felt really, really trapped. He's blind. When he came to us too, he was another one that was very, very traumatized. So allow yourself that space to watch yourself bolt around a cage in your mental chatter, and in your thoughts and in your feelings, because that's really what you're doing. You're like a caged animal that's looking for an exit strategy, and I can help you to resolve those unconscious commitments and that trauma that's deeply, deeply trapped within your tissues. Okay, the issues are all in your tissues, and that's that programming and the coping mechanism. So for me, where I was watching myself ping pong around, looking for an out and bashing myself up inside my mental prison, instead of channeling this feeling into action like I usually would, I just became aware of my relationship to myself. And I asked if I could care enough about myself, that practice some radical self-care, and start to just ask myself, what did I need in that moment? How could I care more about myself than about the distraction of the busyness? Because it gets pretty exhausting. And I asked myself, where was the part of me that was feeling so sad? Where was it? And I went through what I teach in the mindfulness change process. And the sadness, allowed that sadness to just amplify and get bigger and bigger. And I felt really hot. And even now, thinking about it, I can feel, and I've got a lot of heat coming off my body. And there was some tears that were leaking, started to really bubble up to the surface. And there was a lot of confusion as well. So I gave myself full permission to feel all of those things. And then when I became present to the many nuances of the sadness, it eventually shifted into anger. Okay, so then I got really, really angry, because there was a story there. And this is the same way that I do this with my clients, whether you're human or animal. The wounded lion, the buck in the snare, the wild animals, the primal reptilian brain, the triggers and the blind spots for us as a species are exactly the same. So give yourself, like I did, a safe place to notice, to just notice and accept what you're feeling, and then allow the emotions to be expressed in a way that doesn't harm you or anybody else. When we were kind of finished wrestling, there was nothing left but peace and connection and gratitude for myself and my brilliant mind and my beautiful open heart. Okay. Remember someone once said to me, Sarah Jane, if you're touching people's lives, you're going to bleed more than once on the stage. And he was so right. So allow yourself to see where your barriers are up, and just let yourself, experience that. For me, it felt like my inner horse was now walking beside me with curiosity and interest, and it was beautiful, and it was ready to engage in the next moment. So this powerful experience left me even more grateful for all the animals like Marmaduke and Misha and the horses. And there's too many to name, but there was just so much gratitude and appreciation for the wisdom of animals, for mirroring back my own pattern and guiding me through how to transform it. So now when I notice myself springing, and I want to encourage you to do this, when you notice yourself sort of springing into that caged animal stuff of unrelentless activity and action, I just take a moment to check in with my own inner horse. Okay, and sometimes it is a dark horse, but it's still my horse and it's my animal body. And I ask myself, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? And by being present with myself, I'm able to always follow the emotion. I love connecting patterns and pathways. And that ultimately leads me back to a state of care and connection. And that's all I was needing to begin with, was just to be held, be held like a little baby. How would you hold a baby in your arms? So I'd love to encourage you to notice where your own frightened inner horse comes forward, so that you can start to play with creating a safe space to be exactly where you are right now. And just become curious. How do you cope? Notice how you cope. And I'd love you to comment. Put your comments and any questions below. And if you want to go deeper into this work, let me know. This is my area of expertise. So what patterns do you use? I'm really curious right now. What patterns do you use to navigate the world? And can you meet yourself? Can you meet this awareness with compassion and self-acceptance and an open heart? And go deep down. Just go deep down. Because I promise you, with a lot of training and a little bit of practice, inch by inch, remember, we're just wanting to turn things 1 degree. But you can transform your trauma into Dharma, and you can transform into invitations to slow down and connect more deeply with yourself. So that is it. It is wine time in this house, and I am going to love and leave you let me know if you need any more information on this. There are many ways that you can work with me. And if you are interested in the mindfulness change process, and you want to, and you're ready, you know that whatever you're doing right now is costing you way too much time, health, energy, relationship, money. How you do any one thing is how you do everything. And if you've related to some of the aspects of what we've talked about today, get some support. If not from me, get some support from somebody else. I have filled out of the clarity discovery sessions for May, but I will open more up. So if you want to get one of those for June, book a session. Get on my waiting list, because I would be honored to help you and support you to just move through and see the shadows, see the blind spots, and start living your big beautiful life, because you have gifts. And remember, the world isn't waiting for someone like you. The world is waiting for you and what only you have to offer the world. And most of what makes you an expert is because you're here and you have a story to tell. So thank you for being here. I will see you back here tomorrow for day 17. And Roxanne, love your connection. Thank you, Roxanne. Yeah, and if you're interested in the animal communication work, it is a beautiful course. Even if I don't say so myself, it's everything that I have learned, and I have pretty much taken or know most of the people that are in animal communication. This is the best work, and the tools work as on any kind of species, human or animal. So check it out. It's over at accessyourtruenature.com. And if you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear how you're going to go forward and actively appreciate being curious and see the world through new eyes, see the world through the childlike wonder of anything is possible. And have a good night or day wherever you are. Bye. Mwah.